Anthea's life seemed to be going fine, but it was always very monotonous. No progression, and she was basically sitting duck, not making any progress, be it with her life, academics or career. And looking at her friends and people around her, she started comparing her life with others, and depression started taking over her life. Suicidal thoughts were almost a given every single day, and she felt useless and worthless, just sitting at home watching movies every day doing nothing. But then she decided to reach out for help, and this changed her life. She is doing much better and even got a stable job. Well, things can get better for you too. Reach out for help. It's always too early to quit and never too late to start a new chapter in your life.
Mike is 21 years old. His friends call him the life of every party. You see, whenever he walked into a room full of people, the room would immediately light up. He wants to be a great drummer one day. He would get into small gigs every now and then, like weddings, birthdays, and he even played at a local concert once. You see, Mike has a lot of friends, and he spends most of his time with them, going on treks, camping, and parties. As much as Mike loves his family, he never really spends quality time with them, as most of them are working, and so is he. But all in all, they are a happy family. However, one day, they found Mike in his bedroom, lying in a pool of blood. Mike had cut himself, and no one knew why. Luckily, Mike was still breathing, and his family rushed him to the hospital. After he physically recovered, his family got the help that Mike needed for his mental health. He's still recovering now, but he's doing so much better. He started to open up to his family little by little about his feelings, and surprisingly to Mike, they were understanding and mostly grateful that he's alive. If there's anything that I've learned from Mike's story, is that there is always a shoulder to lean on whenever you feel alone. Thank you.
Mandy used to be a very lively and passionate young girl. Every Saturday she would make time for her friends and they would go out and eat together. While on Sundays she would stay in and she would make a very special dinner for her family. Her daily routine included packing lunch for her younger siblings, then heading off to college, and then music class, and then the gym. She would always come home around 7:30. Fast forward a few months later, she would just come home from class and she would lock herself in a room. She was probably shutting off everybody. But on the other hand, her mother was frustrated seeing Mandy like this, and she told her to drop her rude behavior, as she thought that this was just a phase that Mandy was going through. But it was not. And nothing worked. And it was on the 17th of May 2019 that Mandy was found dead in her bedroom. She hung herself. She only left a note that said, "I'm sorry, but I cannot live like this anymore." After her death, her mother started to blame herself for not trying hard enough to prevent everything that happened. Her own mental health started to deteriorate, but worst of it all is that she knows that she will never be able to see her daughter again. You see, the thing about suicide is that it does not only destroy that one person's life, but the lives of those who love them as well.
Adam was doing really well in life, having great ambitions and goals. He had just graduated and looking to excel even more with further studies and plans to better himself. but a sudden transition took over his life, whereby he had to witness the COVID sweeping the entire world by storm. And although he and his family did not get the disease, but an overwhelming sense of anxiety, depressive and even suicidal thoughts took over his life. Seeing that the future seems very bleak and having no sense of security of this disease for himself and his family, and he started having bad intention about himself, and he was almost on the brink of giving up, but he decided to call the helpline and reach out for help. And now his life has been transformed. There is hope for you too to do the same, and it's never too late to start afresh. Suicide is never the answer.
Pretty is an adventurous lover, ambitious and a very smart young teenager. She wanted to live life on her own terms. She would always save up money rather than asking for her parents if she wanted something. This just shows how independent she can get. However, the sad truth about her life is that her parents planned to marry her off after her 18th birthday to a son of a wealthy family that her father had always been friends with. And that's not what Pretty wanted. She would pray to God that God will somehow talk to her father in his sleep and command him to stop the arranged marriage, but she knew that this was all just wishful thinking. One day, as she was stepping out of her bathroom, she overheard her parents discussing about her marriage. Her mind went blank. She's 17 now, only a year left. I will never be able to go to a beach with my friends, or go to Ladakh, or become a lecturer, she thought. I will never have my freedom. And that's when she considered that the only solution to all her problems that she dreaded to face was to take her own life. She stepped back into the bathroom and reached out for her father's razor blade. This is it, she thought, as she was shaking and slowly bringing the blade closer to her. That's when it struck her. She was ready to take her own life right then and there. She rushed out of the bathroom to where her parents were, and she said with tears running down her eyes, "Papa, I do not want to get married yet. I beg of you to please consider only this one request, Papa. Please stop my marriage." Her father was in a state of shock, and they both decided to compromise and seek professional help in order to find a better solution. Now both of them are doing much better, and they're working on ways to meet each other's wishes. Day by day, they're getting better. It can happen to you too. You matter. Your life matters. There's always a solution. Do not give up because you can fly. Your life is important and you have a far greater purpose.
Hello, my name is Rozie and Lyngdoh, and I'm a counseling psychologist. So since we're all aware that September is also known as Suicide Prevention Month, so I'm here to talk about what suicide is and how we can actually prevent suicide. So to begin with, many of us have been touched by suicide in some way or the other. Some of us have lost a person who went to suicide, or heard or we know of someone who has. So if we break down the statistics, approximately, you probably have heard that suicide ranks as the 11th leading cause of death for all ages. More than 32,000 suicides occur in a year, and the attempts are far greater. So what increases the likelihood of suicide? Firstly, we need to check into the prior history of attempt as to how many times the person has attempted suicide. Secondly is childhood trauma. We need to look into the kind of abuse or violence a person has faced or come across while growing up, either from their family, peers, or even elders. Thirdly, another risk factor includes anyone with mental illness or being associated with depression and anxiety. And some of the environmental stresses include occupational burnout, failed relationships, failed intimate relationships, academic pressure, and also lack of coping or self-care skills, and most importantly, lack of social support or a good support system in their life. But most importantly, another risk factor is the stigma associated towards mental illness or seeking out help. What will society think of me? What will society think of my condition? What will society think if I start seeing a psychiatrist? So the stigma associated with mental illness or the stigma associated with reaching out for help puts the individual in a state of being unwilling to reach out for help. So when we talk about suicide, how can we not talk about the warning signs that comes along with it? So some of the behaviors that we need to look into when it comes to suicidal ideation is, firstly, check if the person is staying aloof or being isolated, or something we call self-isolation. Secondly is self-harm. Check if the person is indulging in self-harm by the use of certain objects or intake of unprescribed medication or drugs or pills. So self-harm in different ways, that is a behavior that we need to look into. Thirdly, when a person keeps on talking about taking their own life or having a death wish, so mentioning that over and over again is another warning sign that we need to look into. And of course, when we talk about warning signs, how can we not talk about when a person passes statements such as, I wish I was never born, or the world would be better off me, being in a hopeless situation or having a negative outlook towards the world, the environment and others. So these are some of the warning signs that, that can be commonly identified if a person is having suicidal ideation. So what do we do when a person exhibits any of the symptoms or the warning signs that I've listed? So what we do firstly is we need to ask the person, how are you feeling? Can you tell me more about what you're feeling? And are you planning to take your own life? Are you thinking of hurting yourself? And if the person says yes, what we do is we do not brush it off on the carpet or refute or argue with them by saying stuff, by passing comments such as you have much to offer, you better than this. In fact, listen to the person empathetically and help the person, and along with the person create a plan to come out of it. And if the person is not willing to reach out, help the person, motivate the person to reach out for help. We're all here for you. It's just a matter of one click away. We're all at an internet search. So what is some of the certain organizations that I can list is, firstly, Iska Wellness. So with Iska Wellness, there's a psychotherapist and a team of trained professionals that can help you cope with such situations better. And there are so many organizations in Shillong, such as Shillong Counselling Services, Sunn being the leading mental health rehabilitation center, and of course the coming up of Roots. There's a team of trained professionals that can help you. So lastly, we're all here for you, and suicide is not an option and it is preventable. Thank you so much.